Welcome to Blood in the Snow Radio, where we give you the latest news and interviews with the best in Canadian genre cinema. Here are your hosts, Robert Bellamy and Festival Director Kelly Michael Stewart.
Blood in the Snow 2024 continues, and Kelly, this guy has been here quite a bit.
That's an understatement. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we would not, let's just get that out of the way first. We would not probably have a Blood in the Snow if it wasn't for this filmmaker.
Really?
Yeah, Ryan Andrews. Thank you for being on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Yes. And the short film you have this year is very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a trilogy of shorts,
Oh, really?
technically. They're all standalones. They all stand alone on their own as short films, but if you recall Fishbowl,
Yeah.
that played Blood in the Snow a couple years ago, that's part of it as well. It's all the same theme that all kind of come together in a feature script that I've written that I would like to hopefully move forward with making, but each one of these shorts that we've made, the team, like me, Katisha Shaw, Michael Deleny, my editor, Chris Cole, Janelle, our composer, Janelle Bechtold, and Dave Woodside, our cinematographer, and everything done in Post City as well for color and sound. We've all worked on making these three films separately to play festivals, but they all have that same similar theme.
Okay.
And that's been kind of a theme. I think if there's been a thread through your work, Ryan, it's like there's a lot of, you like to deal with the psychological things of tortured artists and stuff like that. That seems to be, if I had to pick one thing that's kind of a thoroughfare of like that too, not just with these films, but your other feature work and things like that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, write what you know, right?
Yeah.
So I know a tortured soul when I see one. But for me, I think a lot of it comes from, I grew up on video nasties, and I grew up on, all the slasher films of the 80s and watching Faces of Death and things like that. And so, I love the Terrifier films. I think Art the Clown is phenomenal. But, it's like, I think back to music with Metallica when they did the Black Album. The whole idea is we could always make Injustice for All Part 2. We can always just keep playing songs faster and faster and faster. But, you have to do something more, have some more substance there. And so I see the same thing. As far as horror goes, I enjoy slashers and I enjoy blood and gore. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be something else that comes out that's gorier. There's going to be something else that puts Art the Clown to shame, when it comes out. So it's not about making the bloodiest film or making the scariest film, which is all opinionated anyways. It's about having that dramatic substance. And to quote David Cronenberg, just because you're making a horror film doesn't mean it can't be an artful film. And so for me, as far as horror goes, I like to try to focus more on the sadness of human experiences. And to me, that's the scariest thing.
I love the fact that you get into, like, what's particular with this one, that you get into a writer's mind, which
Yes.
Yeah.
I know you're a vivid writer.
Thank you.
And but it's almost like a god complex that this guy has in the film.
Yep.
Do you ever get that while you're writing?
No, I let my characters beat me around. I like to be dominated, I guess. But no, what it ends up being, I actually listened to a podcast recently, Lore podcast, Aaron Mankey, where he was talking about, children having imaginary friends. And the majority of children, like 90% of children, have imaginary friends. And psychological-wise, it makes sense because it helps them prepare the skills they need to interact. But one thing he touched upon is adults, they don't have imaginary friends unless they're writers. Because as a writer, I can say, yes, this is true, that you have conversations with your characters. You talk to your characters and you talk out scenarios in your stories with your characters, and you even respond in your character's voice sometimes. I think Stephen King even touched on it with Dark Half, with that book. or Romero's movie version of it, where a lot of it comes from the idea of like, you know, when we're trying to get into the minds of all these different characters, to do those characters justice, we can't just think like ourselves. So we almost have to have these imaginary friends that we actually have conversations with. So, well, I totally get the God complex aspect. To me, it's more just me and a group of friends talking.
Yeah.
You know, and so with these shorts, it's nice to, you know, be like, okay, so I'm working with Kat, I'm working with Deleny, you know, so it's almost like I just imagine having conversations with them, and, you know, I know how Kat talks, I know how she thinks, so, you know, I could have like a full conversation with her and she's not even here, and I'm just like, oh yeah, this is what she would say, and this is what she would say now.
I've heard that before. Actually, Tarantino said that what he does is how someone asked him how he writes his characters. That I know my characters so well. I get them in the room and get them talking, and I'm just dictating.
Yeah.
Of like what they say, and there's an element of that in this kind of like that. It was like, yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely not God complex. It's more of like,
Yeah.
you know, multiple personality,
Yeah,
dissociative
got it.
identity disorder kind of thing going
Listening
on.
to the voices, yeah.
Well, and that's why I brought that up, because it seems like that's how it started in that short. Because, you know, showing the screen, the whole bit, it's like, look, I control you. But
Yeah.
as you showed, it's usually the characters that win out.
And always the characters went out. The writer, you know, the joke is always that the writer's the last person to get paid on set, and you know, there's always those memes where it's like the producer with their money, the director with their money, the actors with their money, and the writer's going, "What? We got paid?" You know, because the writer's job ends when all, you know, the film process begins. You know, and so the writer's often forgotten about, but you know, being a writer and director and producer, I can confidently say, and I know I've talked with a lot of other filmmakers here, where content is king. It all begins and ends with the story. You can have the greatest producers who pinch and save every penny, but at the end of the day, if all they're doing is putting a story together that's already been told, or a story that, you know, they've rewritten so many times, there's so many holes in it that it doesn't really work. It doesn't matter how good the actors are. Like, you know, a good actor can make a shitty character a crappy character. It's still not going to be a great character. So really, at the end of the day, and maybe this is where the God complex thing starts coming in, maybe at the end of the day, you know, it's all about, you know, the writer, and the writer often is the loneliest part of the job. You know, like as a director, I get to sit with the actors and, you know, like, okay, let's talk through, what do you think? You know, and I've never met an actor that doesn't want to be given direction. You know, and also as a director, you work with the cinematographer and, okay, well, what about the lens and the framing we do here? You know, that kind of thing. And same in post-production. You know, it's all a collaborative effort, except for the writer aspect of it, because the writer's just the lonely person in the room with the ghosts, you know, coming up with the story. So, you know, and I never set out to want to tell this story of a writer. I mean, I've actually already told a story about a writer before. Totally separate themes, totally separate characters, but it's just the different visions of the artist. And with this trilogy that Kat and I and Deleny and our team have told, you know, we started with, you know, like this rock star who was at the end of his career. And then we did a story called Relevant with Thea Park, who's a phenomenal actor who is a painter at the start of her career. And so then it's like, okay, for the third story, okay, and it's a totally separate story, but it's got to be the middle of the career. And yeah, I could have done it as like, you know, a director or actors, a story about actors, you know, trying to get into character and going insane. But I just thought, you know, focusing on that loneliness and the sadness of horror. Well, hey, the writer's the best character to tell, so that's why I went this way with the writer aspect.
So how does the trilogy reflect to the feature you're talking about?
Long story short, and you know, with me, there is no short story
say,
here. But basically, you know, I had this idea of just wanting to make a contained story about people in a motel. You know, it's very surreal. And essentially the motel is like Mount Helicon over in Greece. You know, like that's where the muse lives. That's where, you know, anybody goes for inspiration. And so this hotel is, you know, the place that artists go to be inspired. And so the different hotel rooms just have different characters in them. It happens to be that one of the rooms is occupied by this junkie rock star, like a Kurt Cobain kind of person who's escaped from rehab and, you know, is like hiding out in his motel room. You know, there's a writer in another motel room who needed to get some peace and quiet and go do a weekend binge of writing. You know, so it's just the interactions between the different characters. And prior to the pandemic, you know, I've made 6 feature films. But since the pandemic, you know, also dealing with some health issues and stuff, I also, you know, I have a son who has autism who has always been my top priority. So since the pandemic, I've kind of had to take a step back from being as involved in film. Not that I've never not been involved in film, but it's not like with all my other features, you know, I went out and did a lot of producing, got the funding, that kind of thing. So since the pandemic, it's like, all right, you know what? I don't really have the time to go out there and, you know, do all the networking and schedule the meetings and all that stuff. So, you know what? For now, let's pick apart this feature and let's start doing these different shorts. So that's what I mean by they all kind of come from the same story. They're all their own individual.
Yeah, so it's more like
things.
it also, you're saying, yeah, individually, but also it works in the feature sense. You're talking about like an anthology, essentially, where it's kind of like would all go together as one kind of thing.
In a way, yeah.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to go full anthology where it's like here's story 1, here's story 2.
Yeah,
It's just all the different stories
Right,
interact
yeah.
as one full story.
I like that idea.
Yeah. So if you found that you've, my impression was before the pandemic, you were more reluctant about shorts. You wanted to really just kind of focus on features. You did a few shorts, but you were kind of like, that was kind of like, okay, like that. But how have you been finding doing more shorts lately, kind of thing like that? Is it like that? Because it's a different mindset doing a feature versus a short and stuff like that, how I approach it.
There's definitely a different mindset, and I think people have opened up more to shorts. 10 years ago, you know, when we were talking, and I mean, let's be honest, 10 years ago, I had just finished shooting Save Yourself, and, you know, I was working on another feature, and, you know, we were hanging out at Blood in the Snow and everything. And at that point, you know, the idea was you still got your film finished, got it into Walmart, got it into HMV. I mean, the biggest thing was to get into Walmart because that meant your movie was in every town, coast to coast. You know, so at that time, it's like there's no market for shorts. Shudder didn't really exist back then. I mean, Netflix was like a distribution company or something. Like they sold movies. So back then, the idea was if you're making movies, you need to make features to get features out there to get distribution. And in these past 10 years, especially with, I don't know if TikTok has something to do with it. So people's attention spans are like gone down the toilet. But the idea is people are more into shorts. Like it's almost like, you know, like I know a lot of people my age, you know, who are like, yeah, you know, I don't even like, you know, really watch TV much. I'll just go on YouTube and watch these different like shorts and stuff. And if they see something that's 25 minutes, that's too much of an investment, right? Like 10 minutes is a sweet spot. So to me, my opinion on shorts versus features hasn't changed, but I do recognize that the landscape of how people consume content has changed. And so since I think we as an audience are more interested in seeing shorts, that has allowed for shorts to get out there more. You know, where the shorts that I made, you know, 15 years ago,
There were calling cards more than anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there weren't any places to go with them. Where now it's like, hey, after you finish playing the festivals with them, you can get them like released and you can get them on streaming platforms and stuff. So people actually want to watch shorts.
It's true. It's definitely, I can tell you in the 13 years of the festival, like when we were, I mean, you know, the first couple of years of the fest, it was just sort of like, it was harder to get audiences out for the shorts. It was like okay, like that too. Whereas for your screening last night, that was our highest attended shorts program ever. Like we were opening up the balcony. It was like 350 plus people. That's unheard of for a shorts program.
Yeah,
it's just like that. And we've even and we're actually finding that people are buying. We have a shorts film badge, and people are actually buying that just to go to the shorts. I couldn't have done that 10 years ago. They were just knowing what.
No,
would
and
never
I think
existed.
that's part of it. Where nowadays it like people want shorts, and I think it's also a testament to what you've curated for your shorts program. Like the shorts last night, it's not like, oh yeah, what was your favorite one? This one, or this one. It's like they were all so bloody good, and they're all so different as well. And it's just a great, like, very welcoming community of like, people just wanting to get their shorts out there. And so the fact that you had, over 300 people just coming to see indie Canadian short films, that shows you people want, that kind of content.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the show again. And again,
not a problem.
Congrats on the festival. Doesn't need it because your work always rocks. So thank you again.
Much love, man. Thank you.
Welcome to Bits Radio 2024. We are back. I'll get you guys to introduce yourselves, your project, and a little synopsis of what it's about.
Me first? Okay. I am Michael Joseph Deleny, the 13th, to go along with our 13th season here, and that's real. I am the 13th. And we're here with Parasitic, short film we did about the tortured mind of a writer and kind of the struggles you go through as an artist. It's part of like a 3-part trilogy that we did with Ryan M. Andrews.
I like that your thought was that it's about the writer.
Yeah.
I mean, it sort of is. I'm Katisha Shaw. I'm the producer and an actor in Parasitic. I also helped co-write it, and yeah, it is about the writer, but we mess with the writer pretty hard.
Yeah.
None of us are having a good day. How's that sound?
What's your take on it, Kat?
Oh, it's about AI.
Oh, okay.
Like it is about the writer, but it's actually a commentary on the film world and in particular film festivals. Like we were throwing hardcore shade, not at Bits in particular, but at festivals.
No.
Like we love Bits. Bits is actually
festival.
Yeah. Bits genuinely is one of my ultimate favorite festivals. Kelly knows this. I tell him that regularly. He's sitting here blushing. I love it. But no, I go to a lot of different festivals and I watch screeners from other festivals, and I see that a lot of the time story is forgotten in replacement of just gore porn. And I get pissed because I'm watching gore porn with nothing to it other than violence. Like, we don't need to tell these stories anymore. Why are these the ones that are winning? And sure, audiences are amused for 5 seconds, but I want more. I really want more. So that's really what pushed Ryan and I to sit down and conceptualize where to go with this. And so we wanted to throw some shade at festivals that were elevating shitty projects just because they had extra blood. And I want to see filmmakers do better. I want to see festivals do better. I want to see more fun hit that screen and make people think. And then since we are, on the age of AI creeping in, it was like, let's throw a nod into that too and see what we can do. So we just had fun with it.
And it's a fun show. Like watching that, we talked to Ryan earlier about the whole writer God complex.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't see the AI connection, but I do now. In hindsight, watching that, I'm surprised I didn't.
What do you think that white room was at the end when the computer broke?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Were we watching the same movie?
Well, I didn't. I took it as just. And this is where his interpretation of it. I just took it as the writer erasing.
That's fair too.
Yeah, I was just like that was kind of like you've been written out of the.
Yeah.
When you have like the cartoon where they erase Bugs Bunny, and so I just kind of took it like that.
I mean, that's all part of it too. Like it is a full-on commentary on it, but it's like computer engineering, right?
Yeah,
With the computer at the end. So it was fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
So Ryan mentioned, you guys mentioned this was a trilogy you guys are working on.
Yeah.
How has it been working on the 3 short films?
We love each
Lots
other.
of work, but we love each other.
We beat each other regularly.
It's true. In every movie, I get beat up.
You beat up me too, though.
Yeah, it goes back and forth.
Yeah, it's like, we have a very loving relationship. Like brother and sister, we beat the shit out of each other. But working together on multiple projects is truly a highlight. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I want to do more all the time. I want to find ways to do bigger, better, stronger, harder, faster, which is hard in the Canadian landscape when it comes to filmmaking. But our little group is scrappy.
Yeah, it goes to show what can happen when you like find your people, because like no one person's gonna make like these huge things or whatever. You gotta find like your team and your family, and sure, you guys might be able to do one film together and then things fall apart and you hate it or whatever, but being able to do like 3 over and over, then you go, okay, these are our people, because we can continually work together no matter what happens.
And we build the snowball up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Ryan mentioned too, like once you guys work together so much, he goes, I can sit there and go, okay, this is what Kat would say. He would start typing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. And like the amount of time we spend together too, both Deleny and I are pretty known for saying some really obnoxious shit.
Yeah, just like some offhand things.
Yeah, some very out of pocket things. And then they end up in a script and we both read them and go, fucking Ryan.
Yeah, whenever I do one of Ryan's scripts, I'm definitely the type of actor who sometimes I'm in and out of it going, am I even delivering this? Am I like acting right now?
Yeah.
But like he just writes so well for me in particular that it's like you just kind of lose yourself in it. I don't have to act. And then you see it and you go, oh.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're just having a conversation. We're not acting.
Yeah. So I guess thanks, Dad, on that one.
Don't call him Daddy. He'll help. There you go.
Never call him Daddy. There's a big difference. Those 2 letters mean a lot.
Kat, I'm interested in your evolution as an actor, performer, producer. You're like all these different hats that you wear, kind of thing like that. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about that? Because it's been interesting, just fascinating actually watching your career progress and change and stuff like that. Because one minute you're executive producing something that's playing at TIFF, and then you're working on here and that, and it's just, and I can't even keep up, like just even just your travel schedule. So I'm just
can't keep up.
Yeah, I get exhausted just looking at your socials, just trying to give what country are you in now? Where are you at, like that too? But it's an interesting. I just kind of curious how you. How you feel about it and where it's been going and all that stuff.
Somebody had this crazy idea one day and said, hey, you should be a producer. And I was like, all right, bet. And I did not know what I was doing. And I still don't know what I'm doing. And I'm convinced none of us know what we're doing. We're all just winging it. And some of us get really lucky. And it's been a whirlwind tour. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Genuinely, I love it. Part of it was like, I'm a woman in my 30s, and our industry is so incredibly unkind to women, in particular women in their 30s, because we don't exist. As an actor, I should say, even though we are the biggest consuming demographic is women in our 30s. We're the ones that are spending the most money. We're attending theaters. We're doing all that stuff. But our stories are not being put on the screen. We're kind of ignored. Either you're the hot young bombshell or you're the grandma, and there's nothing in between, and the character lines are vapid and empty, and it's garbage. And I was like, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to be part of that machine. So I was like, I'm going to start elevating voices. And then I started to dip my toe, and I realized how gatekeepery, for lack of a better word, and just closed off a lot of this industry was. And I was like, I don't want to do that either. So again, I was like, I'm going to kick down the doors, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to make people pay attention, and I'm going to scream from the rooftops and try to do the thing. And so I guess I'm doing the thing. I made a number of movies in 3 years. Multiple have played major festival. I've got others coming out on Tubi later this year. We're in production on a number of projects for next year. I can't keep up with my own self. It's become a bit of a joke. I've been in my own bed maybe 5 times in the last 4 months.
Wow.
Because I'm just running. I go to all of the markets. I show up for like myself, and I show up for my peers, and I support everyone, and just I'm there to be loud. And that's how that's going.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, and some context, we've had quite a few people on Bits Radio today, and they're in the lab. You're actually meeting with people in the lab and hearing their pitches and stuff. Like you were watching the pitches, I think, this morning, and then having meetings with them too. So you're helping foster their careers too. So she's also already moved into more of a mentorship too, and at the same time of building your own career. So that's fun.
Yeah, I love that. When you guys asked me to come and do that, I was terrified because like the imposter syndrome is strong.
Yeah.
And I go, why me? I'm just a baby.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, I'm the type of person that you give me an inch and I'm going to give you a mile. And if I can't be the one to help you get to that next step, I'm going to find you the person that can. Because again, there's so many doors closed in this industry, and it shouldn't be. Our industry is so deeply collaborative. So I don't understand why people block each other out. Like, this isn't a pie. Or if it is a pie, we should just make more pie. There's so many opportunities. There's so many stories. There's so many things to do. There's so many audiences waiting to hear your voice. Go and do it.
That's true. If the product is there, people will come and see it.
Yeah.
So it's not a limited pie by any stretch of the imagination.
Just make more.
No, and it is a lot of the frustration of lots of actually, particular women performers is like actors is that is what you're saying is either the young hot woman or the grandma kind of thing like that. And I've been one that's been a proponent of produce your own work because if you don't, you're going to be told what kind of stories you're going to be told, like what kind of stories like that. And I've seen that frustration over and over again, and that's something that I've been kind of on a personal level been pushing. It's like don't wait for other people to make that for you. Make your own stories, like that too.
Yeah, there's actually. Speaking of that, when you said don't wait for other people, Mark Duplass did a speech at South by. Every time I'm feeling low, I go back to that Duplass speech from South by, where he literally talks about going out there and making your own movie. And he references, he's like, okay, I got the agent, I'm going to do the thing. The cavalry's coming. The cavalry doesn't come. Okay, now what do I do? Well, I'm writing these scripts. I'm doing this stuff. What do I do next? Cool, the cavalry still doesn't come. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to start making my own stuff. And they start making their own stuff at super low budget. And they get like out of work actors and people to do stuff in kind. And they film it on their phone. Okay, do what you got to do. We've got the most powerful cameras in our pockets these days. Go and make a movie. Do something silly.
Right? My phone shoots in 4K.
Exactly. Right? That's Netflix quality now. Like, you're good. Exactly. Okay. But go and do it. And like eventually you get to a level that you realize, shit, you are the cavalry. So open the door for other people. Like, bring them up. Keep building that snowball. Adam Sandler did it. The Duplass brothers do it. All of these groups are building up their network, and they find their core, and they keep going harder and harder. And they do the major festivals, and they sell the big movies, and they're at the big studios now. And that's just what you have to do. No one's going to come for you. You have to be the person that steps up for you. And like I tell actors this too all the time, because we're friends with a lot of actors who like to sit and wait by their phone, and they're scared to call their agent, and they're scared to get involved. And like, show the fuck up, pick up the phone, call, do the thing. No one's gonna call you if you're not there for it.
I had that epiphany moment. It was even before Blood in the Snow started. I was actually standing on the street of the theater that I used to do these monthly movie nights, and actually I was standing with Ryan Andrews, and there was about. I can't remember what screening it was, but I looked on the street, and we're just standing on the street with dark, like 11 o'clock at night, and there was 8 directors and me talking. All I could think of, if there was any actor here right now hanging out after the screening, they would be just like the opportunities,
right?
No. Because the auditions are like 5% of like what the real casting is. You really got to be in the room and talking to these producers and directors directly and go, oh, you know what? I think I might have a part for you, kind of like that too. And that's all I could think of. And that was and I think in the back of my head that I was kind of like, wow, there needs to be more spaces where people can kind of talk to each other. And I get tired of the word networking because it sounds so formal, but it's like, for lack of a word, but it is what it is. But it's just sort of like, but just conversing and talking with each other, and just how these things. Because one of the things that happens at our festival is these things kind of happen organically. You plan things like this and like the lab and the screenings and stuff like that. But then there's why I call it in the corners. All the things happen in the corners of people talking and walking a cafe shop. But just I know I'll tangent there, but yeah.
No, but that's one of the things I really love about Bits, because it is a filmmaker focused festival instead of an audience driven festival. Sure, we love the audiences, don't get me wrong, but because this is so centered on community, you don't know who you're going to bump into in the hallway, right? This place that we're at has like gender neutral bathrooms. You could be washing your hands next to the next person who's going to make your movie, okay? Like, you don't know what's going on. Like, go out there and just talk to everyone. Don't be shy. We're all here doing the same thing. None of us know what we're doing.
So very, very true.
Yeah.
Well, what do you guys have coming up on the horizon that you can talk about?
What can I talk about? Well, I guess it's in the trades already. I am going to be going to camera next year on a project called Romanticizing Monsters that Ryan actually wrote as well. We have Maria Gabriela de Ferreira currently pinned to play our lead, and she is in James Gunn's 3-picture deal on Superman. So she's so cool. I'm super excited to work with her. Berkeley Brady is going to be directing, and actually this is a throwback to Bits because Berkeley and I connected because our other film premiered at Bits, Fishbowl, opened for her film Dark Nature.
Yeah.
So there you go. Bits makes magic happen. So I'm super excited to do that. Nervous to do it, actually, because it's the first time that I'm not just exec, but I'm lead producer, creative producer on it as well. And
no pressure.
Navigating, no pressure.
Zero
And
pressure.
like navigating the world at a higher budget than the other stuff that we've done to date, although there's even higher budget stuff coming right behind it too. So I'm just, there's a lot coming in hard and fast. So that one's exciting because it's announced in the trades, and unfortunately everything else I'm still under NDA. Like, we literally just finished principal photography on a really big project, and I'm like, I want to tell the world about it, but I can't. 'Cause that's part of the marketing strategy.
That's frustrating.
Yeah. We're dancing with a couple TV series as well, really trying to push Canadian talent in the process, which is another thing that's lacking. We don't have a star system here, which is another thing that drives me up the wall. I mean, there's a star system in French language Canada, but English language Canada, it's like getting us to come out is like asking someone to go for a root canal with no freezing. We don't support our own, and then when our Canadian stars do well, they just disappear and go to the States, and there's no incentive to come home. So I'm trying really hard to elevate more Canadian faces and voices in that space. So it is very important to me to do that in our projects.
Excellent.
Yeah.
As for me, I actually just finished my first #1 on the call sheet for a feature film, which...
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, which you really find out what you're made of. Everyone's like, a lot of people like think they're ready for it because you've done your principles, your large principles. Oh, like I had 4 scenes in that movie. I'm like, buddy, wait till you have 85 pages of dialogue. Like, and you're trying to fill it, and the worst thing was on day 2, I caught like a wicked flu. So then filming the entire thing with a flu was just another monster in and of itself, because you're doing like your 13-hour days, and midway through you just look back and just be like, help, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, and then you wonder if you're doing it or not. So you really find out what you're made of. It's a film coming out next year called Chimera. It's a crime thriller that we did.
Oh, nice.
And that was very exciting. Because along of like not knowing what we're doing, there's a quote in Van Wilder. He says, "Don't take life too seriously. You're never going to get out alive." And all the greats have always said their one regret was being too stiff on set. So it was kind of like, okay, now's my chance to take all these things I've learned and kind of just go in, eyes closed, mouth open, and see what happens. and that's my quote of the day.
Put that on the bumper.
Yeah, exactly.
Gives you a visual. That's
Yeah. And then coming out the other end, it's like, okay, now it's just ready for anything. It's like, what's next? There's a pilot. Hopefully, I'll be doing next year.
Yeah, we're both in that.
We are, in that. And I don't know if I can say the name of it. I won't. I don't know. I don't know if I can say the name of it.
They've announced it.
Have they?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can
It's
say
all
it?
over social media.
Okay,
Say it out
I'm
loud.
allowed
We
to say
get
it?
it.
Okay, it's called Noose, the Hangman's Tale, and like the description, it's very much like a Law and Order thing if it was in the 1800s.
I like
Yeah.
how she prompted you to say it.
Yeah.
So just in case.
Yeah.
I'm like,
For legal purposes.
Yeah. Right, I'm the one who said it.
No, but it's all over. It's all over social, so we
Okay.
should be fine. And if not, too bad.
Yeah, you're gonna see I'm not in it now.
No, you're in it because I'll fight for you. Don't you worry.
Thanks, Mom. And yeah, so we did that, and then who knows what's on the horizon? You know, just waiting for the next thing right now.
I know there's a couple things, but again, I can't tell you shit.
Oh, so I got a couple things coming that I'm just unaware of yet. But eventually I'll be aware of them, and then I'll tell people about them.
All right.
Excellent.
We'll have
Can
you
I
on
point
again.
something out about the film that you just did too? By the way,
Yeah.
Jacob, you're a
Director,
because we did another film with him, and he was more support in crew in that one. So this is his first venture into feature direction.
Yes, that was his
and,
first feature.
And since that was building the bubble, right? We worked with
Yeah,
him
you
on a
never
project
know who
together.
you're gonna work with, because like, yeah, you meet someone, and then 5 years later, they're like, hey, you want to do this thing? Like, yeah, I want to do this thing.
Well, look, stunt coordinator from The Crow ended up making the John Wick franchise.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very much about build your community, find your people, expect nothing, accept everything.
What was that with your eyes closed and your mouth open?
Go in, eyes closed, mouth open. and
And on that note,
That's the perfect place to leave it. Thank you so much for being on the show. Good luck in the festival. I can't wait to see how well people receive it.
Thank you.
awesome. Thank you.
Join us next time for Blood in the Snow Radio. Bits Radio is a production of Three Evil Cats Productions in association with the Blood in the Snow Canadian Film Festival. For more information and to listen to other episodes, visit bloodinthesnow.ca and tweet us at BitsFilmFest. Music by Jen Gorman, produced and edited by Kelly Michael Stewart. I am Eduardo